I will call the meeting to order at 7:01. All right, we'll start with our board norms, which are to maintain our focus, communicate respectfully, be present, keep the board productive and effective, and respect the agenda. And do we have any changes to the agenda? I think we do.
Well, we have not changed so much, but it's just a reminder that this student presentation on PBL is happening under student reports, and that's happening.
All right.
So that's really, it's not really changed, just an addition to the existing report.
Got it. Eli, before I hand it over to these folks, did you have anything that you wanted to report on?
Sure. Obviously the year is rounding out. There's 33 days until graduation. I just calculated that. So seniors are preparing for that. We're doing a senior trip to Albany where we're going to some kind of mall, and we're doing like bumper cars and bouncy house. It's something crazy. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's something crazy. And then we're going out to dinner at Cheesecake Factory, so that should be fun. And then sports-wise, girls softball is 5-2. They've been doing really well. Their senior night is on Wednesday versus West Rutland. The boys, they just picked up a win versus Otter Valley a couple minutes ago, really, and they're 3-4. So, and then also Ultimate Disc, varsity Ultimate Disc has a game tomorrow versus Long Trail. So, yeah.
Excellent. Anything like a prom coming up, or?
Oh yeah, the prom is on May 31st. So that is happening. It's happening at the Brattleboro retreat. So.
Great.
Tickets are being sold.
Excellent. Thanks, Eli. All right, I'd like to turn it over to our big presentation of PBL. I don't know who he's handing off to, but.
Hi. Shall we all just join over here? Maybe there's 4 chairs. Should we sit down?
However you want.
I guess so.
Sure.
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, my name's Laura Tabachnik, and I'm the PBL coordinator in Leland and Gray. And with me tonight are Julia Taylor and Erica Knockenhauer and Joe Toll. And at the beginning of our presentation, we have about 10 or 15 minutes with you. That's about it. I know you have lots of important things to discuss, but we want to give you some highlights. So as the PBL coordinator, the first thing I want to do is kind of give you a quick history of PBL. So that's your cue, actually. And some of you have a handout that I gave to you, but for those of you that are online, hopefully you'll be able to follow along. So first, the quick history of project-based learning at Leland and Gray. In 2018, there were a few teachers that experimented with a cross-curricular unit. Post-COVID, we implemented some PBL Wednesdays here. You're probably familiar with that. We just abolished that this past year. And during that time, right around 2020, we developed a 5-year plan. And in 2024, a PBL coordinator was hired. That was me. And in 2025, we have advanced the 5-year plan, and we have moved PBL into classrooms, which are called learning expeditions. And we've also changed our PBL Wednesdays into intensives, which we're here to highlight this evening. So just a little bit about where PBL went. It went in 2 directions for us. How it went into the classroom is really our prime objective here. That's what's really good pedagogy and gets kids involved and interested in their learning. And so we developed a study group here. Many teachers participated and formed what's called learning expeditions, and those are defined here. They are 4 to 8 week content-driven and inquiry-based curriculum. It embeds a lot of expeditionary learning core practices. You've heard expeditionary learning probably with the literacy curriculum. This is something completely separate. It involves things like local case studies, doing field work near and far, think of field trips, but with a purpose instead of just for fun. Taking data, things like that, talking to experts, creating high quality work, authentic products, and having an authentic audience. So instead of students writing papers for their teachers or taking tests, they would instead maybe present a new plan for energy efficiency in their town to the town council or possibly the experts that came in and talked to them earlier about how to create efficient energy ideas. So it creates a new buy-in for students. So that's where we're headed in the classroom. That's a really exciting piece. But tonight we're here to highlight the other half, and that's intensives. And you've probably heard a lot about them. And so what intensives are, you might not have learned about this actually, because it's very different than our PBL Wednesdays. They are intended to be stretch zone experiences. There's a circle of your comfort zone, next is your stretch, next is your panic. We don't want kids to stay in their comfort zone, and we don't want them in their panic zone, so we try to create these stretch zone experiences for them. And ideally, this will provide them some unique opportunities to grow, all alone by themselves. Intensives are also interest-driven. They're also multi-age groups, and the intention here is to build community across the school in ways that we can't normally do in a normal school day, so that the 6th graders can actually hang out with 12th graders. Intensives are also authentic hands-on experiences that are out of the classroom. We had, I think, 16 or 17 intensives run this past March. All but 2 left the building, most for more days than 1, and not just on little outings, on pretty purposeful events. They have discussions with real-life experts, and the whole intention of intensives are for these kids to form new bonds, learn new things about themselves, and create new skills that they then bring back to the classroom. And they apply it to the rigorous work that's in the classroom. So that's the intention. To build community, to build relationships, and allow kids to succeed in the classroom in ways that they didn't know that they could before. So, some highlights from this past year. We got 35 students to travel. It was really exciting. This was just our first pilot year. We hope to offer that opportunity to more students next year. They went to London, New York City, and Chicago. Other students traveled as well, but those were the ones that were just overnight trips that took place away from this local community. 20 students went to the courthouse in Greenfield and to the Springfield jail. 8 students got safety certified by Northeast Logging. They know how to use a chainsaw. They've got level 1 certification. And then a lot of other stuff happened. Here's a few other things that happened. We had some students that studied animal rescue and rehab. Some researched what makes a good learning space and made changes to some classrooms. Some traveled to King Arthur for a class in baking, and there was even a silent movie premiere. That was pretty spectacular. Those were just some highlights from this year, and just when I wrap it up in just about a minute, you're gonna hear some more from the London trip. Looking ahead, we've created some dates for next year. It's gonna be a whole week of intensive this time. It's not just 3 days. They're gonna take place from March 9th through the 13th. If I had the school year calendar in front of us, you could kind of piggyback and look at the fact that the week before, I think, is the town meeting week, and the week before is February break. So if trips wanted to go for a little bit longer of time, they would be only missing 3 school days. We're gonna repeat some intensives. That's the idea, by the way. With learning expeditions and intensives, they repeat. So we're gonna try to send kids back on many of these trips. We'll do some revisions, make them better, see what worked, see what didn't. We're gonna offer some more travel opportunities next year. And that brings me to my request for you. If you have any ideas of expertise or experiences that you might be able to offer our students, please get in contact with me. Don't hesitate. No experience or expertise is too small. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have one.
Sure.
How do you guys choose who's gonna travel?
Well, there's a big application process. So the first thing that happens is that students request their top 3 choices. And once they do that, if this past year, by the way, this was our pilot year, so this will revise these practices, but students, if they selected London, New York, or Chicago, they needed to come to a couple of meetings to learn what they needed to do. And then they needed to pass a couple of gates. So about 80 people applied to travel this past year, and we only had 35 spots.
Wow.
So there's that. How it went after that, once the applications came in, once the kids said that they wanted to travel, they met with us and we said, okay, your student application is due on this date. Your parent form is due on this date. So those were 2 gates right there. Unless there were extenuating circumstances, if the application wasn't filled out, that's how we started to weed people out. They weren't meeting the deadlines. So first came their application, then came the parents' form as well, and also a teacher recommendation. So once those things were collected, that's when Jessa Harger, who was and still is on our faculty, but she was an amazing influence in the Journey Away program, and so she helped out a lot with this part of the intensives. Once those things were filled out, then it was up to Jessa and myself and the PBL committee to kind of disperse these kids into groups. One thing, and I had to explain this to a lot of kids too. One thing that was a little bit unclear is many of the students who knew our Wednesday PBLs so well felt as though seniors should get their top pick, and that was just how it went, like usually, and that's how it did happen before I got here. But when we switched to intensives, it was a little bit of a different objective. It wasn't so that seniors could have this opportunity to travel and then leave our building. It's so that they can actually create bonds, like I said, step into these stretch zones with people from across grade levels so that they can bring that back to the school. So the international trips and the national trips aren't meant to be grade specific or tailored to meet the upper level grades. So they are intended to completely mix everybody together. And then those lists go to the chaperones and we kind of look and see what are the good groups. It's hard to create good groups. These are teenagers. And so they have a lot of feelings and we see those feelings in classes. So we try to make the best lists possible. There were a lot of students that were disappointed that they didn't get to travel this year, but that's exciting for next year. There's more opportunities to travel. The idea is that the students who haven't been able to travel will then be able to, but also, now that this is rolling, the intention is that all Leland and Gray students get to experience travel maybe twice while they're here. So that's how it rolled the first time around. It's going to roll similarly the next time, but there will be some improvements made. But if you have any questions about that, feel free to follow up.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
You've been talking about making improvements to it. Do you have a planned process for review and improvements?
Absolutely, yes. We have a project-based learning committee, so I'm the one who leads that just because I'm the coordinator, but it's a very much group effort. We've collected feedback from the community. Hopefully you all received a survey. It came out in the Sunday Scoop or maybe on a Monday, I'm actually not sure. But the community's been asked for feedback, families have been asked for feedback, students have been asked for feedback, teachers have been asked for feedback. The PBL committee has collated all that information and we've got a to-do list. I have to say that overwhelmingly it was positive feedback. And not to toot our own horn, but for a pilot year it went pretty well. And I did have to answer a lot of students' questions about why they didn't get into what group, and of course I'd want to know as well. Tightening up the contract for the kids who commit to travel is one thing that we want to do. That's one example of what we want to do better. We want to make sure that kids choose, these are just two examples, but yes, we have a method for that. But another example is to make sure that kids pick 3 on-campus intensives and 3 off-campus intensives so that we can make sure to spread the wealth.
Sure.
Yeah, so we have an agenda, a rolling agenda actually.
Yeah, well,
The list always is.
thank you so much for
Yes.
your work on all this.
Absolutely.
Some of the improvements I'd like to see is a nail down of budgetary items on that.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
you set your itineraries, you present a budget to the board before.
That's actually there. There is a document that has everybody's budget on it.
Yeah, but, well, I didn't see it this year, but I'd like to see it next year.
It probably was because it was in the works the entire time because
Yeah.
teachers and teams of intensive leaders were crafting the budget as we went. But now there's a great example of that and it can certainly be shared.
I would love to see
Absolutely.
that.
It's a miracle actually. Other questions? Great, well if you think of some afterwards, please email me. I'm open to any and all suggestions, any feedback, any questions, concerns, all of it. Please direct them towards me. And without further ado, I'd like to invite my colleagues to present the highlights from London.
All right, my name is Joe Toll. I was one of the leaders of the London trip. I'm a social studies and science teacher at Leland and Gray. I've been teaching at this amazing school for almost 28 years. I just want to thank the board for their support in giving these students the incredible opportunity to experiencing learning outside of the classroom. These students were amazing representatives of our school. They were on time to every check-in, enthusiastic about all their experiences, and thankful for what this community provided for them. There was a lot of learning that happened before and during the trip. Every student had to research and present about one of the locations we were visiting. They were forced to navigate us to different places in London, learning how to read underground and overground train maps and bus schedules, organizing and purchasing and preparing food. They were incredibly respectful of the house we stayed in, cleaning up after themselves and behaving in an appropriate manner at all times. When the host arrived back at the Airbnb, they wondered if we had actually stayed there. Leland and Gray should be so proud of this program that gives its students these opportunities. I truly feel our PBL program will light Leland and Gray up on any educational map and will attract students from surrounding towns with these incredible programs and travel experiences. Thank you again for your time and letting us share this program with you and your continued support of our unique program. You're about to hear some of the highlights from our students on the trip, but if you want more details, we invite you to look at the trifolds and the maps and the back counter of the classroom. Taro, you're up.
Where do I go?
You can go right there.
Yeah, you look good. You're on TV.
I'm Taro McCord. I'm in 10th grade. And yeah, so this school trip was unlike anything I'd ever done before. It was my first time on a plane, my first time in another continent. And yeah. Okay. And I had a great time with the people there and learned everything, a lot of things about everyone. And my favorite thing we did was when we went to the Tower of London, because I enjoy history, and we learned about all the legends. And we got to explore the entire castle, and that was sweet. And the other favorite thing, we went to the British Museum, and we saw like a bunch of artifacts from like across the world. So that was pretty awesome. This trip made me realize with proper planning, a trip like this is possible, and I think opened up a door for me to consider traveling more. There's so much more I could speak about, but I'm on the clock, so thank you for this great opportunity.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Miles Size, and I'm in 10th grade, and this trip was awesome. There were many things that I saw in London that I would not be able to see in Vermont, like city life, lots of people, driving on the left side of the road, and a new currency. I was able to learn a few things about myself when I was on the trip. One includes how resilient I could be despite being exhausted from walking in the city for miles. But it was all worth it, that's for sure. I have liked traveling and exploring new places, seeing new cultures and how different places work. It was crazy to see all the different landmarks and places that you see in the movies. And by the way, they're much cooler in person. That's my speech.
Hello, school board members. My name is Spencer Clausen. I'm a 10th grader who's a part of the London travel trip. This trip not only brought me closer to my friends, but it also connected me with my teachers. Not only the London trip, but other travel intensives that have also said the same. These are once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that I think hopefully other kids can capitalize on in the future. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Josanna Passero. I'm a sophomore here at Leland and Gray. Before the trip to London, I was feeling really disconnected from Leland and Gray. I felt like I didn't have many friends as maybe people perceived me to have, and I dreaded each day at school. But as I boarded that plane on March 2nd, I was going to figure out that that was not true at all. And I was going to find the best connection I could ever find. This trip is truly what I wanted and needed, and the bonds that I created with these people and my teachers were amazing. It was like just what I needed for that point in my life. And laughter, new foods, lots of walking, new sights, they grew to be our norm for the week. And it was just like an experience that I can't even put into words. It's really hard to like actually like read this and be like, this doesn't just cover it. It doesn't even cover part of it. I'm just really thankful for this experience, and it was so beneficial for our connection at Leland and Gray. I feel like every student deserves that.
Hello, school board. My name is Amelia Crockett. I'm a freshman. This trip to London was such a unique experience. I got to travel with all these people that I never thought I would have been able to before. I got closer and made many connections with not only the students but also the teachers. Plus, we got to see a whole new city that was nothing like Vermont. It was completely different from the busing and training system, which I cannot explain how beneficial that would be for me and my future life about when I use that. And if you ask me my senior year what my favorite memory is from high school, I can definitely promise you this will be on top of the list.
Hello, school board. My name is Max Millison. I'm a freshman here at Leland and Gray. Standing in front of Parliament and Big Men was surreal. Seeing a place with so much political history right in front of me made everything I've learned in school feel real and alive. Also, walking through Trafalgar Square with its energy, statues, and people everywhere, I felt this amazing blend of history and life happening all at once. but what made it truly unforgettable was sharing it with the people on this trip. Somewhere between train rides, group dinners, and late night blocks, we became like a family, and that made every moment even more special.
Awesome.
Hey.
Can I add to that?
Of course you can.
I'm Julia Taylor. I teach English here at Leland and Gray. I'm a newbie still. I think I'll be a newbie for the next 10 years. This is my, 4th year. And I was one of the lucky teachers who was given the opportunity to travel with this wonderful group. And I want to thank the board and Leland and Gray for that great opportunity, by the way. I'm just here to show, you've heard from the kids, but I'm here to show my strong support for experiential learning in general. In my 25 years of teaching, my most memorable, powerful experiences have been traveling with students. There is something about cramming a bunch of adolescents into a bus or a plane or a train or all of those things, or a hotel room or whatever it is, and watching them experience a new place, watching them grow day by day as they learn to put aside their own needs and look out for each other, as they make difficult decisions, as they show patience and flexibility with very little sleep, and being away from home, all the comforts of home. It's an amazing experience to watch students grow. It's also an incredible experience for a teacher. You teach and you're sitting in a classroom all day and you see students one way, right? You see them with how they approach a book and how they approach speaking and how they approach taking a vocabulary test, right? Maybe some discussions. You travel with them, and all of a sudden you're seeing your students in a different way. You're seeing them experience something together with you. I've never been to London. I had like a panic attack on the London, it was all new to me too, right? And the students were experiencing that together. I remember traveling with students and they convinced me to go on one of those giant swings where you just like whip across the, and they were like, you can do it. And there's something about, and I did do it, and it was amazing. There's just something about the bonds that are created when you travel with students that's important to the students, but it's also really important to the teachers. You start to see them in a new light, and that then allows you to become a better teacher. So I just want to say that about experiential learning as well.
Wow. Any other questions?
So I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
So I think the kids have to raise so much money for this trip on their own. Do you know, like at the start of the school year, like around how much money each student will have to raise?
The budget that was set for us last year was $75,000, and we were able to do all of the intensives for $75,000 plus a little bit. We covered it all under what was raised by the travel intensive kids. They were all asked to raise $400. Some of them raised a little more, some of them didn't raise any. They were still all allowed to go. They were not prevented from going if they made the efforts to do the fundraising. Since the budget has passed, it is not necessary for kids to do the fundraising. It's all involved in the cost. However, that is something that the PBL committee considers, because some teachers that would like to travel with kids feel as though students need to have a sense of accountability for what we're doing. And so they feel as though fundraising is an important moral part of signing up for the trip, and that if you're signing up for the trip, you're signing up for the trip. And so it's not that we need to have the money be raised and that students wouldn't go if they didn't raise it, but there's going to be something asked of them to participate in a group activity, to be accountable for the funds that you all have graciously provided.
So I ask because I remember one student, and not to throw Alan Spencer under the bus here, but I saw the fundraiser and it was pretty close to the trip, and of course I had 2 kids with the flu, so we didn't do it. But is there an opportunity to start raising those funds earlier? in the year.
Yes, and ideally, because this was our pilot year, that all didn't start until January. We're hoping to start this whole process as soon after the school year starts, to put out the offerings in October even, and let parents see them too. Now that the Leland and Gray community knows what intensives are, and now all of the parents of Leland and Gray kids know that their kids have participated in that, they kind of know what's going on now, and what it's all about. So it's going to start a little bit earlier. The fundraising will start earlier. But I would like to reiterate, no student will be turned down because they didn't raise the funds, as long as they made the efforts to do the fundraising or whatever group activity is called upon for that intensive.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, so two things. One, I want to echo what these guys said, and what the students said about all the travel, having taken kids on trips. Myself as a teacher, it's all true. It's an incredible experience for everybody. I'm gonna do a minor correction from Laura's statement about the history. 2016, Leland and Gray staff did a design thinking experience. Joe was probably the only one of these guys who was here at the time. But we brought in someone, a consultant, to do a design thinking, and the essential question we were trying to answer was thinking about personalized learning, and it was about taking personalized learning and proficiency-based graduation, and how can Leland and Gray sort of take these things and leverage it into something that would be really powerful for kids. And many of us did student shadowing and things like that as part of that process. And actually, I think I shadowed a Clausen. It was Tyler actually that day. I think he was in middle school. But we came up with a bunch of different prototypes, and the one that we ended up focusing on was the idea of having project-based learning. And we brought in trainers, and we started that process, and that led to the 2018 interdisciplinary course that Laura described. So this is almost 10 years in the making of seeing this come to fruition, and man, it just feels awesome to me. It's such a powerful thing for kids, and it probably wouldn't surprise anybody to learn that the thing that we witnessed and the data we came out of the student shadowing was our kids are in seats too much. And so the idea of intensives in the classroom, traveling opportunities, things like that, that's where learning happens. It's not sitting in seats. So at any rate, that was my experience, both as a teacher previously here and as the principal. It's just fascinating to see this come to this point. And I just want to thank the kids and the staff for coming in and sharing this, but also thanking the board and the community for that, because I think that's a really important message as well that we hope gets out.
There's a man named Adam Norwood who provided some PD for that early on. He's from the Upper Valley Educators Institute, and I just spoke with him at length, and I'm not sure where this piece is going to appear, but I will send it out to all of you. But he just interviewed me for about an hour about how PBL has moved, and he wrote a very long piece, really proud of Leland and Gray, so I will send that out. Also, the Reformer did a photo shoot on the intensives. If you missed that, I'm sure you can look in the depths for that too.
Well, I would also say, as a board member, this is what we're about. This is exciting. The stories, the life lessons that we heard, that's amazing. I mean, this makes it rewarding to be a board member, to see kind of the fruition, as you said, of a 10-year excursion, and we're finally here. And this is the kind of stuff that differentiates us from other schools. And so I'm so excited for you folks, and I can't wait to see this just continue and evolve. It sounds like you have such a great method for capturing what went well and what you can improve on, so it's fantastic. Yeah, thank you very much. Did other board members have any other comments?
I just want to say thank you again. I just echo what everybody's already said, but this is something that we as a board have talked about for a long time as well. Just how can we get more experiences for students, and how can we make the Leland and Gray experience just as amazing as it can be, and I just thank you for making it so successful in the pilot year, because it's makes it just really easy for us to be on board with it. I mean, we were on board anyway, but it's just like really easy to be all the way in now. Like the buy-in is all the way here. So thank you everybody for that went and told us about it, and every other staff and the staff that's not here too. I'm so thankful that this is happening. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just add something? I just want to say that as a small school, our main priority is building that sense of community, and I think that what greater way to build a sense of community than sticking a bunch of teenagers in a group and make them like each other. And it really does work. So I feel like that's how we can make our halls feel less lonely and have more people reaching out to people that they wouldn't normally reach out to. So thank you.
Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Now dinner time. Yeah.
Hey guys,
Oh, yeah, for us?
Yeah.
If you folks are more comfortable sliding back over here, then totally fine.
No.
Stop throwing stuff at you.
Put my feet up.
Oh, that was great. That was great. All right, so we're moving on to public comments. And
Public
I
all
think we,
left.
do we, yeah, right.
Anybody out there?
Our public all left.
Any public comment? Anybody, I can't see anybody out there. No, no hands.
I don't know how to do the hand. Sue Stomsky.
Hi, Sue.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. My husband and I took the grandkids down to the Jamaica school the other day. And is it on the list of hopefully some repairs to the parking lot and to the exterior of the school building? There's piles of dirt from melted snow from where the plow did it. It looks terrible. A lot of people from the state park use the playground and walk around and want to play and do stuff. And you have that beautiful bike park now. It just looks really sad and like it's not, nobody's there. Is that on the agenda for maintenance to go up and try to do a little bit of cleaning?
It's a great question, Sue. Go ahead, Bob.
I can answer that. Yeah, I mean, typically, each year we try to have someone go up there with our grounds person. We had a grounds person depart and a new one start, so there's a bit of a gap. And then, of course, the weather's been less than ideal in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, no, it's on Greg's list to go up and have them sort of rake that back and fill in holes and all that in the driveway.
All right. Thanks a lot, Bob. Thanks, guys.
We'll even mow the lawn at some point if it hasn't been done yet, because it's
Okay.
probably
All
not.
right. Thank you.
I think I see Tammy Clausen's hand up.
It is.
Yes, I just wanted to mention that we had a very huge successful weekend at Leland and Gray. We hosted the 4th annual Dingers for Dylan. We dedicated the brand new backstop, which again, the board helped to fund. And so it was a very beautiful weekend, despite the 5 inches of rain we had leading up to Saturday. And I know that the Landers family felt the love and support and are very pleased with the dedication and the beautiful product that will last for hundreds of years down at Leland and Gray. So again, I just wanted to mention this big event and again, thank the board for your support. If you haven't seen the pictures, I have shared some with Bob, and maybe he can share them with you in some way. But yeah, it was a huge success.
All right, thank you. Anybody else out there that I'm missing? Out in our audience of one here? No.
She's behind Dana. I thought it was empty.
I didn't see you already. Hiding back there.
And just to piggyback off what Tammy said, that event is also pretty incredible because of Tammy, Beth Wells, Ryan Kelly, Joe running the grill. So there's a lot of our staff and board members that make it pretty incredible. Tammy paying for a kid to throw a ball. One was mine. So,
Many hands.
yes.
Great. Thank you. All right, moving on to old business, tuition request update.
So at a previous 2 meetings ago, I believe, the board was requested by the board to consider a tuition payment to another district for a student. I think we had an executive session with the family, and then at the end of the executive session, no decision was made by the board, and you directed me to pursue some conversation with the other district. The other district has put it on their board agenda and has decided to not waive tuition for said student. So Drew and I did put an executive session, a possible executive session, to discuss a student matter if you wanted to go into detail about the case or the kid or family. But at this point, it is back, the request comes back to you now as the district has refused to allow a tuition-free student. And so you guys, in order to honor the request, would have to pay tuition or choose not to pay tuition, and the student would not go. So I'm being vague purposely because it was an executive session matter with a student, very specific student situation. So you can defer to executive session later if you would choose to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
So we
seeing
will.
some heads. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, we'll move on to that later. Next is Jamaica Village School update.
Right, so not long after the last board meeting, Al and Drew and I received a communication from the select board chair of Jamaica requesting that we have another vote on the closure of the building. So I think Drew has had additional conversations. I don't know if he wants to speak to that or if he can. If he can't, I can, but I think he is probably better situated to do that.
Okay. Drew?
You hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
gotcha.
So I did have some additional conversations ahead of the meeting. It sounds like the select board is interested in putting the closure of Jamaica School back up for a vote. And the thinking at this point is about the Articles of Agreement and the clause in the current Articles of Agreement that would have the school turned back over to the town for $1, and the potential legislation that's happening in Montpelier, which may interrupt those articles in the future. So there's still a desire for the district to run a preschool in Jamaica, but the town the select board was looking for a request to officially close the school, transfer ownership of the real estate, and suggesting some sort of lease agreement going forward so that real estate transaction could happen.
So I had a quick conversation with our attorney about that process, and again, as you guys remember, only the board can request that vote. It's a board action, and so that's why the town is asking the board to do so. So you would have to then ask the town to hold the vote and set a date for that, set a date for when that would take place if you chose to do so. So yeah, that's where we're at. I guess the board has some thinking to do and discussion to do to figure out what they want to do next.
Drew, any further thoughts on that? Did you?
So I think, so my further thoughts on it are, I guess the question I would have for the board is, are we certain what we want to do with the preschool in Jamaica? So it seems like until we've made decisions about the programming we want to offer, making a decision about the building would be a little bit premature. At this point, we do have an active class that we're planning on holding next school year in Jamaica. And when we asked the question the last time, it was the citizens of Jamaica were very clear they wanted that preschool open. So I think there's a lot more conversation before we hold the vote again. What does it look like if we vote to close the school now for the students that are already enrolled in our preschool program that's up there? What does that do for the rest of the programs that we have in the district?
Okay. Would we like to direct the administration to look into this, to kind of carve out some different paths?
I mean, I feel like that makes sense. Personally, I also would like to consider the question of what the upkeep on this building currently is, and if we no longer own it and are renters of that building, that upkeep would, I'm assuming, no longer be ours. And is that a good decision for us, or is that not a good decision for us? But that's something that we should consider.
Maintenance costs, okay. Dan?
Agreeing with what she's saying, but I'm also wondering, we need that for our overflow, don't we, Randy? Because you might, I personally know you might have a 3, 4 coming to add to your numbers.
We're still in that time frame where we are collecting registrations. So
my suggestion is we probably hold on to it for a little while longer. Not too long, but a little while longer.
Meaning next calendar, next year? Yeah.
That's my suggestion. I mean, I agree, we're paying for the maintenance, but I don't wanna lose students either.
Well, I think Lindsay's point was like, how much is the maintenance right now? Like, is it $500,000 that we have to, yeah. Crystal?
I think my question would be is, because we've looked into Newfane as well. So would Newfane be ready to take on students? If we did do this, how many Jamaica students would we lose for pre-K? What does that revenue come to? So.
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
So Drew, maybe you can, this is maybe a question to you, but what I was hearing was that the specific hope from whoever you were speaking with at Jamaica was that they would own the building and we would continue to run our pre-K in that building. So whether we decided to do that or not, I guess is also the question. Is that the best thing for us to be doing? But also, I guess, just to piggyback on your question about Newbrook, I guess all of the costs of those things would need to be laid out as part of that process. Sorry.
No, good. Bob, and then I think Emily.
Oh, let Emily go first.
Oh, okay.
I have some paths to, we've already been talking about this, so.
Yeah. Go ahead, Emily.
Thank you. I just wanted to address the one thing that just came up. I think it was Drew that mentioned it, about the Articles of Agreement and the legislative, the potential for legislation to shift things. There was in a very early version of 454, which is the bill that's being worked on to transform public education in the state of Vermont. There was a early proposal to take away Articles of Agreement, to remove them, and that met with some resistance from communities, and it is no longer in the legislation. It wasn't in the legislation that passed the House, and I haven't seen anybody including it back in the Senate. That being said, we're in a very shifting moment right now because we're nearing the end of session. Senate Finance has the bill. I think it makes a lot of sense to hold on this just to see where things are heading, even in Montpelier, on the transformation of public education right now. I actually want to be really responsive and thoughtful to Jamaica. I mean, it was our idea in the beginning, so I don't want to be dismissive, but I think even for Jamaica's purposes, it might make sense to wait a week or two, 3, however long it's going to take us to get through the end of session to see where we're headed.
Thanks, Emily. Go ahead, Bob.
All right, so bear with me, maybe it'd be better if I had this on the whiteboard, but we'll lay out some pathways, okay? These are just ones that we've been talking about. So, I mean, the pathway that Emily suggests, which is really pathway number one, which is do nothing right now. It's obviously a pathway, but it's not a real pathway because it could lead to one of the other ones. So you call it pathway 5, but I have 4 others that actually do something. So, so let's say there's 5 pathways. So one pathway would be to maybe not tonight, but to have a vote of the board to draft some article to push to the town and do that sooner. That could lead to 2 different, so pathway A and B from that one. One of them would be that you'd want to do that ASAP and actually close the building immediately and shift that pre-K room out of JVS for next year. That's, I mean, nothing is impossible, but I would say that's not ideal for the families who are already there and committing and registering, and what does it do to Townsend and how do we do that, and can we get Newbrook ready to go by there's logistical problems with that, and so that would not be the recommendation of the administration, but it's possible. This path B out of voting ASAP would be to, as was described, to create a lease agreement with the town that allows for the pre-K to exist there for next school year. And I'm saying for next school year, because it was mentioned like lease, and it wasn't clear to me whether you were thinking, Lindsay, like permanently or just for a year. I know you probably weren't thinking, right, about that possibility, but I don't know that you, as a district, can operate a public pre-K in a building they don't own. Typically, the public pre-K is operated in the schools. The weird technicality for us is that we pulled the rest of the school out and left the pre-K, or put the pre-K in and pulled the rest of the school out, however you want to think about it. But I don't know that you can legally do that. And I don't know that Jamaica wants us to do that anyway. So it might be fine for a year until, to get through the year for transition, but I don't know that the town would even want that. So that's sort of lay that out there. The other scenario is to vote later, some future date that you would write in the articles, that you would ask them to do the vote, which could still lead to a sale happening prior to July 1 of next year, which would still involve some kind of a lease. And the very same questions that Lindsay asked about who's responsible for what, well, that would be written out in the lease. So who, is the owner, that is the town, paying for oil, and we're just paying a rent? Are we renting for free and we're taking care of certain things? Like, that's all, whatever the lease is, how it was written. So that would be a legal discussion there. Or you have a sale with the designation in the article that it takes effect on July 1. So the school remains in the district's possession through the end of the school year next year. The preschool closes at the end of that year, and then sometime in the summer you make that transition. Wyndham's going through that very process right now with the town. It involves lawyers and documents and so on and so forth, and it's not simple, even if it's only $1. So that's how I visualize those possible pathways, depending on how you guys want to think about it. Then the only other curveball I'll throw out to you is, regardless of what you do, Drew's right, at some point the pre-K conversation has to happen. Obviously, if you're kicking it to a year from now, you don't have to have that right now, but what does pre-K look like in West River moving forward without JVS in operation, if the vote even passes it in Jamaica? Like, we don't know, it didn't the first time. So are we going back to the conversation about no 3-year-olds? Are we keeping 3 and 4-year-olds? Are we designating Townsend as the Jamaica Townsend site and putting one at Newbrook and designating it as the Brookline and Newbrook site, and there's no moving? Like, how are we, maybe a school choice procedure that you develop for the district is only for K and up, so it doesn't address pre-K. So how do you think about those things? How does Susie's closing impact the need in the community? And so on and so forth. So there's a lot of variables there to consider, and so the principals, myself, Greg, Heidi, like, we've been already kind of banding this around a little bit. So, but that's where we're at. Those are sort of the ideas, and maybe there's another plan as well, but happy to either research something further or do whatever you guys want me to do on this front, and there you go.
Maybe this is what Lindsay's gonna say too, but I would love to see that in a one-pager. Right? I mean, I think I was following all along, but yeah, there it is, yeah, right.
But I can make it nicer.
The flow diagram,
pictures
yeah.
and diagrams.
Is there any legal stuff that you still need to go over with attorneys and whatever? Or?
No, the big question was, could we do another vote, and if so, when? And the question was, there's no reason, you don't have to delay it. The certification has taken place in the previous vote. You don't have to wait a year. There's some conversations, well, don't you have to wait a year? Like, no, you can just do it whenever you want. So you could do it if you wanted. We don't have an article for you tonight, but if, you know, by next time if we had an article, you could do the vote 30 to 40 days out from that article you adopted in the June meeting and have a vote, you know, in the summer if you want to. But that's sort of the legal side of it.
Sorry, I see Heidi and then I can't see who. Drew, sorry.
I just wanted to answer Lindsay's question. The budget that we built for this coming year, FY26, has the cost of the building expenses to be around $135,000 at Jamaica. It does not involve the teacher, the pre-K program whatsoever, just the ongoing expenses of the building.
And that's without further capital investment. That's just operation.
Yeah. Treading water. Go ahead, Drew.
I'd like to see us push this conversation off till next month, when we can all have a chance to think about it. Maybe we can get the one pager that Bob just talked about out to the board ahead of time, and an invite to Jamaica so they can come in and talk to us about what they're thinking.
Okay, sounds good. Lindsay.
I would also like to add to that for next time that we do need to have the pre-K conversation, and I think that there's some potential questions that would go along with that like what the potential impact of Susie's closing is. If we could put, I don't know if there's time to do it, but if we could somehow ask incoming families about site locations, it might be useful for us to know, geez, if we have it in Jamaica, we're gonna have, 10 kids that use it, and if we have it in Newfane, we're gonna have 20 kids that use it, or maybe it's 5 kids, right? But whatever that is, if one of them happens to be more convenient for working families, et cetera, that would be a good thing to know before we make a decision. It's a big ask.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how to go about that, but you're talking about like
Magic.
But really what you're asking is to talk to any family who will have a kid in pre-K next year, just to see what their
Or
thoughts
just
were.
any years, all of the years from now until the rest of time, which is gonna be the best for the next forever, if you could just know an answer. It's an impossible question.
Yes, but I can get the current family survey. That would be
you
much
wish
easier one, yeah.
Yes.
Future ones are tougher, especially
No.
more than 4 years
We
out.
could just figure out who's gonna have a baby, but no.
Emily, do you have your hand up again?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I did. Just quickly, I just wanted to clarify that Bob had suggested a fifth path, do nothing, and that I suggested that. I was not suggesting doing nothing. I was, because clearly we don't have articles of agreement to warn this tonight anyway. I just was trying to clarify where the legislation was regarding articles of agreement, and that there, we are going to adjourn at some point here. I don't know when, but we are going to adjourn. And I pretty, at this point, I'm not predicting anything, but I do believe that by the time we have our next board meeting, the legislation will be passed, or not, but we will be adjourned by then. So we'll have more information. Is all
Emily,
I can say. I really just wanted to make sure it was clear that I was not trying to say do nothing. That's not what I intended.
I don't think we were thinking do nothing yet.
Temporarily.
Sorry.
Just tabling it.
Wait. Yes.
So just one more thing.
Go ahead, Chris.
I mean, we've already kind of figured Jamaica into our budget for next year. So I think we don't rush. I think we find out, we invite Jamaica to come. I understand the select board is asking for this, but are the people utilizing it asking for it? So I think we have time to.
Yeah, and I think that's the consensus, and it seems like if we have a vision of what the various options are and then what the implications of each of those options are, then yeah, we'll make a more informed decision. Peter.
I do think that it's important to say that if the select board would like to see this maybe happen more promptly, that they should really continue discussions with administration on exactly what they are looking for with the pre-K and what they have in mind. I think that those things could definitely be talked about with administration and Drew between this meeting and the next, if the Select Board of Jamaica so chose.
Of course. All right, anything else? Great. Thanks, folks. Moving on to the minutes of 4/1/2025.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of 4/1/25.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Dana. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
What was that?
It was an aye?
Say
It goes an aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. Correspondence.
Yeah, you had the correspondence from, we talked about from the select board chair and from the Wyndham Southeast. And I think that, was there any other correspondences on the agenda as a separate item?
Okay, great. Financials, who would like to do that? Joe?
Sure. Make a motion to approve pay orders 70, 72, and 73. 70 is in the amount of $258,853.81. 72 is $194.27, and 73 is $1,204,300.50.
And I second it.
All right, any discussion?
Actually, I do have a, we always just approve these basically, but in case the public doesn't know, they have actually been clearly looked through line item by line item, and that is why these two always are the ones that make the motion, because they're the ones that go through line item by line item, so that I don't have to.
Some of them are 230 some odd pages of check runs, yeah.
Yes.
We
Anyway,
went through them.
I don't know if we've said that out loud lately, and I just felt like we should.
I think that's a
Have
great
an
point.
opportunity
Yeah,
to say.
these aren't just numbers, lots of detail has been gone over
Yes.
by our board members.
They used to bring the stacks of paper to the board meeting, and we'd sit there and go through them at the board meeting, and it was the last thing you did.
Oh,
Let's
thank
make
you for
that
not
motion.
doing that.
Well, they don't do paper anymore, it's a PDF.
Yeah.
So you sit in front of your computer for an hour.
Yeah, pretty much, Sunday afternoon. They hand it to us Friday afternoon, and they want them, and then it's Sunday afternoon.
I do it at work.
So thank you for your service.
Between touchdowns and.
There you go.
No, Danny, you
Depending
give
on the
this your
team.
full attention. You are not watching TV.
I miss everything on TV.
All right, next on new business, request for extended leave.
Did you vote on that?
We can vote on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Yeah. Any other
I think we
discussion?
have to.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. Yes, sorry, thank you. Moving on to request for extended leave.
So you have that in your packet, Leland, a great teacher. It's in the packet 2, the side packet.
Yeah, the little packet.
Little packet. And this is one of our teachers who is asking, under the contract, 11.4, that any request for extended leave, then it doesn't need to be for a particular reason, although this teacher gives a reason having to do with childcare, that request can be made, and that it is at the discretion of the board. I believe that the principal supports it. I do. That was very formal.
What is
That's what just happened?
We not pronounce you left.
I don't think I've had one of these come across since I've been on the board. What is the history of approving, disapproving, and such?
Yeah, I mean, every place I've ever worked, I've never seen one not get accepted.
Yeah, I've been
by
on the board for, since before you came to school. We've never denied one.
Okay.
That said, I'll make a motion to approve the request for extended leave as presented.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Lindsay.
I'm actually gonna be the bad dog in the room. Childcare, because you can't get a babysitter?
Having to do with the closure of a local facility.
Also, their contract doesn't require them to provide a reason, period.
I prefer not having a reason, you know. So we have to come up with somebody to cover.
Yeah,
the
you're not
cost.
paying, it's an unpaid leave.
It's an unpaid leave.
So the money that was
Okay.
budgeted for that, for her, would then go to the sub that you hire, that Dana hires to replace that
Okay.
person. So, and as she articulates in the second paragraph, the contract is clear, there's no advancement of steps during that leave as well. So come in the following year at the year budget that you would have budgeted for this year.
Is there any reason to think that you won't be able to fill the spot?
Not this time.
Right on?
Alright, it's the best I can tell you.
I was gonna say, would it be easier to find childcare for her?
He's got a lead. Okay.
Have a lead.
He's got a lead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crystal.
So, I was just kind of under the assumption, I think we had a sub that filled in when she had the child, and kind of hoping that works out again, because I heard great things about it.
He's got a lead.
So that, yeah, positions posted and we'll do the interviews and follow the proper process. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Peter, I heard it.
Yeah, just one more question on I guess, because you said their contract doesn't require a reason, so I assume that most have not given a reason, or has there been a history of a similar reason in the past? It's my own.
I mean, usually it has to do with extending childcare or just a leave of absence that maybe they don't qualify for a sabbatical. So they just take an unpaid year. There's been teachers who have done that pretty regularly.
Yeah, it's
I
been
can think of a few just
it's-
since when I became principal. There was our teacher who did it 1 year.
Yes.
So just, taking a leave.
Cool,
So
okay.
it has happened and there's not usually a reason. There's not a reason required, but they've generally, in order to
Yeah.
retain the person coming back, like you want to work with them,
Right.
So.
Perfect, thank you. That's, just wanted that as the last.
Great, thanks, Peter. All right, anything else? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I'm abstaining. I'm.
Oh, abstention?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd neither agree or disagree. I don't have to.
All right. Let's see, do we have a count on that? So we have two out.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Clear.
7.
We have nine total today, so eight in favor and one abstention. Okay, the motion does carry. Moving on to tuition requests for 2025-2026 school year.
All right, so these are not related to the thing I mentioned earlier. That's
Right.
still out there on its own. These are two additional ones. They're not new to you, though. One of them was considered last time, and you wanted more information, so the family has provided more information. And then the other one, I think I mentioned to you at the time that you, I'm gonna say renewed the people who had previously done it. There was one family that didn't get back to me immediately and didn't ask for the renewal. That family is now asking for the renewal and has a younger sibling that they also want to follow that sibling in the renewal. So you're looking at a family of 2 for next year at Wardsboro, and then a second family of 1 to Wardsboro. So I don't know how you want to have the conversation. One of them is a repeater currently in Wardsboro and their sibling, and the other one is a brand new current pre-K JVS student who does not been tuitioned this year and does not have any siblings who have been tuitioned previously. Is that clear?
I think so.
It's mud.
It's clear as mud. Yep.
Do we want to address all of this in executive session?
You could do that in executive session, yep, because there are some family dynamics for sure in play.
Just put them all together.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah. Freedom to speak. Okay. All right, moving on to principal reports. Let's start with, who do we have on, do we have anybody?
Hey, folks.
There he is.
Hey, Scotty.
I'll try to be really quick. I just want to say, it's coming to the end of the year, so we have got a lot going on. I want to thank Sheila Overman from Townsend Elementary School for bringing the Scholastic Book Fair to our school. She did that by the goodness of her own heart, and it was a huge success and a huge hit with the kids and with the families. I want to thank Amy Duffy. She brought the Vegecation van from the Vermont Garden Network, and I think what the board might be really interested to know is that she invited this local homeschool group to join us. That's never happened before when I've been working at school, that a whole group of kids that are homeschooled came to enjoy an enrichment program at our school. I got to meet all the adults, and we decided that we were going to try to invite them to our farm and field day and see if we can't get them more involved. I thought that was a great idea, and that was all Amy Duffy did that. Speaking of Amy Duffy, she's planning our farm and field day, which is on Thursday, May 22nd. I hope some board members might consider coming. It's going to be super fun. We've got a couple of state game wardens coming. We've got the Vermont the dump is coming. They're going to do their waste sort relay. Yeah, the dump is coming. That's bad. Wyndham Solid Waste Management District is what I meant. They're great folks, and they've come since we started. They've been coming, and that's always a big hit. Our PTO is incredible, and so just recently they did our Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. Just to let you know how inclusive they are, is they put out a bucket of flowers in front of my school and gave each teacher a vase. And then the kids, as they walk into school, pick some flowers and take them into their teachers. That was just one of the things they did. It was incredible. This year, they've done so many different things. They funded the rocket project for Gragan's room. They funded the traveling planetarium. They provided hot cocoa one time. They organized Staff Appreciation Week. They installed the story walk and updated it once or twice already. And they stocked snacks for the adults. And they've been matching our PBS funds for local agencies. Our science fair is coming up. And one of the things we're doing with science fair is we're tying it a little more firmly with our new EL curriculum. So the kids are going to be working on they're going to be looking for high quality work as they look at all the projects. And they're going to have a guided viewing sheet that they'll be filling out along the way, which I think is a really cool idea. I also want to tell the board that Randy and I have been talking a little bit, and we are looking at possibly 22 kids. That's my current number for kindergarten for next year. And Townsend is looking at 12 for next year. So we crafted a letter that I'll be sending out to our families. And all it's going to say really is that our two programs are really excellent, and that if for any reason you'd like to consider using school choice, we're just sending it to the families that are looking at Newbrook. We will waive the deadline so they could choose to go to Townsend and have a smaller class size. That would be a really beneficial thing just in terms of equity, but also in terms of experience and equity for the teachers. We did the same thing. Renee sent the very similar letter 2 years ago, and it got 2 more kids for my little classroom that's now in first grade. We're up to 8 now. But we got 2 from Townsend. So we're hoping that we'll have a little bit of a balance like that, and that could be a really nice thing for us. That's really all I have. Again, I want to thank all you folks, and that was fun to listen to Laura talk about what's happening at the high school. I'm really proud of our high school, and I think they're doing really great things. And I look forward to sending my 5th graders up there next year. Thank you.
Thanks, Scotty.
So I have one question for Scotty.
Go ahead.
Does K through 5 participate in the science fair, or is it just 5th grade?
That's a great question. what we've tried to do is we've tried to spread it throughout the school. To be honest, Jason Gregan and Joyce Van Pamelen were the ones who really pushed this forward and made it really great. Last year, it was our biggest academic event that we've ever had. I'm expecting it'll be bigger this year because this year the teachers of the younger kids have agreed to do one project per class. So, and it's really going to be featuring their module 2 in EL education. So it's going to be talking about what they've learned about celestial bodies, let's say in first grade. So each kid will take part in this whole project, but it is just going to be one trifold for each grade. But last year, what we found is that the kids, after they went through and saw the projects, they made their parents bring them back in. So they could show them, which I thought was super cool. And we had families without any 4th or 5th grade kids that wanted to come and see the projects. And we're going to be doing a lot of kind of just educating people about what EL education is, because quite honestly, you guys bought us the Cadillac and it's beautiful and it's really very science focused and we love it. I think that my teachers are still, I mean, it's hard. It's very, very hard, but I think our results are great. So we're really stoked about it. So I guess that's the short answer, or my long short answer is that yes, they're doing some, but I would imagine that it will grow down. Maybe one grade a year is what my hope would be. But you know, kindergartners aren't going to create a trifold. So I like the balance and I like what we're trying to do. Thanks for the question.
Well, they might create a trifold, but it might not be what you're looking for.
It might not be as sciencey.
Yeah, right.
You can science it up a little.
Yeah. Randy.
Just a couple of things to highlight off of the written report. As we draw close to the end of the school year here, we're entering this week our benchmark assessment phase. So this is, of course, the 3rd time this year that we run our students through those battery of assessments. And what's exciting about this time of year is this is where we get to compare our students' scores from their initial benchmark assessments at the beginning of the year, where they were at the middle of the year, and sort of where they are here at the end of the year, and really look at their patterns of scores and see their journeys as learners across the year, and see the fruits of their labors and the fruits of our efforts with the interventions that either classroom teachers have implemented, or the special education teacher, our AST teachers. And then soon after that, we'll have our final round of data meetings, which will help us to set up our plans for the fall, so that once school starts in the fall, we'll be able to have groups ready to go, and we'll be able to start our AST groups even earlier next year. I got to go to Keewaydin for the first time. That's something new for me. So that was exciting. When I arrived, this is so typical of a 5th grade. You gotta love them. When I arrived, one of the 5th grade girls saw me from clear across the camp, I'd say, and she sees me. She says, "Mr. Al," and she comes running over and she said, "I didn't think we were gonna see you all week," and she comes and gives me a big hug. A few minutes later, they're all standing up in their lines, and I go over and another 5th grade girl is there, and she says, "Mr. L, what are you doing here? I thought this was a principal-free week." So typical of the reactions that you get. I love them all, and I suspect that they love me too. But I think that both of those show love, right? Both of those responses. Principal-free week. Well, it was not a principal-free week. Almost, though. The other exciting thing that I'd mention is that last week, I guess it was it last week or the week before? I was outside. I went outside for recess, and there were 2 state troopers pulled off alongside the Common right on Route 30. And I was a little concerned because, we now had half of the school out on the Common. So I started to walk over towards them, and they, promptly pulled off and did a U-turn. And I thought, okay, everything's fine. And the next thing I knew, they pull onto Common Road. So I walked over and I said, hi, should I be concerned? And they said, oh, no, everything's fine. We just don't get out here very often. And we thought that, we'd introduce ourselves and, while we're here, we thought maybe the kids would want to see the squad cars. And I thought, you've no idea what you're saying right now.
3 hours later.
And they said, yeah, and if they wanted to try on the gear or test the sirens. And I said, oh, no. So I said, in small groups, I'll have them come over. The next thing you knew, they were annoying the neighbors with blowing the horns and testing the sirens and the lights. But the kids had a great time. And the troopers answered, tons of questions by the kids, but it was a great sort of impromptu visit, and it was really kind of them to offer to do that on the spur of the moment like that. So it was a nice surprise visit. It meant that recess got extended by a few minutes in order to make sure that everyone who wanted to had an opportunity to visit and talk with the officers. But a nice way to connect and give the kids a different kind of experience. So those are just the things that I'd highlight off of the report, and you can read the other things yourselves.
That is so cute of a picture.
It's adorable.
Well, I had a lot of others that were great too, but that was just one that I thought was,
Did that go to the paper?
And I even have some videos, but of kids testing out the sirens.
Oh yeah.
And I really do feel badly for the neighbors. And there were some questions from the high school office staff later that day what was happening across the street. But everything was fine. No emergencies.
Well, we know in the past there have been situations where law enforcement has been heavy in the community.
This was a much more pleasant version of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
This was
Community
a noise
engagement.
report.
Community engagement, so they're not so afraid to see the guys in
Exactly,
green.
and I think that that's what was, also really nice was that they got to see them in a non-stressful situation. Had a chance to be around the cars, around the troopers, ask questions. One of them was a former Marine, so we had some students who were interested in careers in armed forces and things, and so it was really great, sort of impromptu, sort of career day kind of thing too. So.
Well, and a couple years ago, they used to do lunch with a cop. So a couple of the state troopers would come in and have lunch with them.
That's great.
Can I add a little bit to Randy's report?
Sure.
Because, he's kind of modest, but Randy has started this long-term program, fellowship, if you will, with the Waddington thing through VPA and the Center for Creative Leadership. It's a program that I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about. I went through it, and Dana has finished yours. He's done. Jen McCusick has done it. Matt Martin did it when he was in Dover.
Scotty's done it.
Scotty, Tracy Gamache in Dover now is going to be doing it. And Dana Gordon Macy from Marlboro is in process. No, I think she just finished. So Randy is now the latest of our crew to go. But he's part of an interesting cohort because normally you just go and you're with a bunch of other principals and you do all this really cool learning about yourself as a leader, and then they teach you a bunch of other skills to enhance those things. His cohort was a special one, experimental, I think. And the idea was that the principal is a smaller cohort of principals, but you each bring 2 staff members with you. And you kind of learn collectively. So he has 2 staff members that have traveled with him to Greensboro, North Carolina, and then we'll be doing 2 more sessions in Vermont in the coming 6 months or so. Yeah. This is all free, paid for by this donation from Margaret Waddington. and the VPA helps organize it. But so he's part of this new cohort, and maybe we'll at some point in the future can share when he's done a little bit more about what that was like. But incredibly powerful leadership growth opportunity for folks. So just want to, he didn't mention it, so I'll make sure you hear a little bit about that.
Nice job, Randy. Dana.
All right, middle high school report. Under academic proficiency, our schedule for the high school, I want to say, is loosely in place for next year. The middle school schedule is going to be built around it, and the scheduling committee is still tinkering with an idea for 5 block for a possible 26-27 school year. Graduation plans are in full swing, prom's coming, moving up plans are in place. We have end of the year ceremonies coming up too. It's getting very busy. In the midst of all that, our personalized learning portfolio committee wants to have a small test showcase in June 9th. That's going to be in coordination with a new parent open house. Just FYI, professional development next year will focus on student learning and engagement. We're going to use internal instructors and support them with resources, guests, and whatnot to kind of lead that initiative organically. For safe, healthy schools, vape detectors in the bathrooms turn out to be more expensive than what we initially thought, so we're exploring different options to come up with some sort of an impact around that. We have some discipline numbers there. I can give you an anecdotal piece of information that kind of speaks to where we are as a school too. The New England Center for Circus Arts came last Wednesday. They put on a performance for over an hour to the whole school, and we didn't really know how it was going to go, but the high school students were cheering and applauding. I know there were 3 or 4 students. They had to be asked to put their phones away. They put their phones away. But they were great. I think the middle school students were kind of like, "What are we seeing?" But they were quiet. They cheered and were clapping. But I think they were like, it was something different. One student was like, "It's good, but I don't think I understand it." And I thought that was like, that's fair. But I just want you to know, like, as a student body, the students are at a point to where they're respectful. They are meeting a very high set of expectations as a whole group. Whether it was a PLP showcase or a visitors like circus coming in, like, they are consistently hitting marks as a group, and I think that's an indication of the work that the teachers and students have done to improve the climate in the school. I want to say, I don't even know the students left the performance. There must have been somebody that I missed, but they stayed and watched. It was pretty cool. It was healthy, and I'm really proud of the students and staff. But it's also spring, and it's spring. The SIP has been submitted to the state, so things are moving along. Busy, but moving along, and step by step. But can the state police come visit our kids next time? I think our kids would have a lot of fun with them too.
I'll
send them over.
I'll send them over.
Yeah.
Lindsay.
Hi, Dana. I would love if you could give us a little bit more detail on the schedule and what that will look like, because I know I've heard from a lot of families, including my own, who have a lot of questions about what it's going to look like. And if you could give me, or all of us really, a brief overview of like why the question of scheduling came up in the first place, and then how what we are doing is addressing those things, and then also next steps.
Sure. So the why it came up, honestly, is because of me. I believe that learning takes place day by day all year. Long-term middle school teacher, so high school's new, and I'm learning a lot. But I wanted to see if there was a way we could engage our students in learning and practicing all year long in content areas. And the semester does it to a degree, but not always. So you might take English in the fall semester, but not in the spring. And I'm like, that's not really the best for our students. So it kind of started from there. I can tell you the 4 goals I asked the committee to consider. I asked them to think about how can we increase year-long practice. I asked the committee to consider physiological needs around learning in terms of like class length. I asked for the committee to find a way to get our arts into the block instead of pulling it out of flex, which is a time when teachers can request students to visit them and get some help from them. And then also to align the middle and high school schedules, because one thing that we have trouble with is just any sort of opportunity goes between middle and high school, like our schedule, they're different. It's like I can't have high school and middle school groups working together unless it just gets odd. I mean, you can do it, but it's just odd. So back in October, the committee started working and they met 2 to 3 times a month, sometimes more. They did research on local schools, most schools are using 4 blocks that we found in the area. And they started tinkering with things. Trying to figure out what would go on with the different iterations. They came up with a 5-block schedule the end of March. Brought it to the staff to see if the staff could kind of poke holes in it, and a couple holes did come up. And so at that point, I decided that we couldn't move forward with it. The committee was energized and felt like they thought they could find a solution for the future, but not for next year. And they've continued to finesse and try to work with the idea of a 5-block. For next year, we have a 4-block, but we were successful in getting our chorus and band back into the block. So all students will have flex. So that can be used for intervention and any sort of help the students need from their teachers. Like anything, that also caused a glitch for a couple of students that are going to participate down in Brattleboro for part day. We had a couple discussions with the students in chorus and band about they have a right to choose what they want for courses. And we are also a small enough school that I think we need to go to the lengths that we can for our students so the students get what they want. In this particular case, we don't influence Brattleboro's schedule, and it kind of went out of our hands. There's one other idea that IT was thinking about that we need to check out, but it might be a workaround. I don't have the final details on that, but I've learned a lot about the fact that we have a portrait of a graduate, we have graduation requirements. When you add a block to the schedule and your graduation requirements are set around a 4-block, all of a sudden students have a lot of openings and might be graduating it's like, oh, we have to do some other work around this if we're going to move to a 5-block. So the short of it is this for me, the teachers were supportive and informative, but they also are they're optimistic. I'm not saying, like, don't take this in an odd way, but like, they want to keep working on it. Like, I think that's really positive. I also know from the process, like, we may find a way to get a 5 block. We're probably going to lose something that we don't know we're losing yet. Like everything, right? But we've been really careful. I know next year we have to do work around Portrait of a Graduate. What are our graduation requirements going to be? What is our course offerings going to look like? And because one of the things we came up with immediately, our math courses are designed for the minutes and the 4 block. And students in high school could take art every semester and still make it to calculus. The thought was if we shift to 5 blocks, math courses would have to be redesigned and added graduation requirements to get them to where we want. And it was an unexpected impact. So I don't have to take, I'm gonna make this number up, but I don't have to take 4 math anymore, but now I might have to take 6 to get to the same place. It was like, oh, that's interesting. So we just need to be careful about, like, it's a spider web is the reality of it. We came up with a schedule that aligned high school and middle school, and it really pulled arts, PE, and whatnot out of the middle school schedule. I'm like, no, I don't believe in that. Put it aside. So it's tough. I don't know if I answered everything or not. But
I actually want to add to that a little bit, if that's all right. When I came here as principal, there was a schedule. I mean, it was still a 4x4 block, but the middle school and the high school were aligned. And middle school teachers also taught high school classes.
Yeah.
And what you didn't have, and the reason we changed it, or the reason I blew it up and teachers were on board with this at the time, is that we created teams. We created common playing times and the opportunities to do things the middle school team that didn't exist before because there were no teams. Yeah. It was teachers assigned to teach. It was a junior high. It wasn't a middle school. And so that to me was the difference. And so we blew that up and went so that they really were different-ish schedules. There has to be an overlap because of shared staff, but we wanted to keep them separate so they could do the other middle school work. The two takeaways I have from master scheduling is that it's funny. I went to a training one time. I'd been doing it at Springfield for years, and there was an opportunity to go to this training on master schedule building. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna see what I can learn. And I went to it, and the guy was like, you gotta have priorities. I was like, no kidding. Like that's the takeaway. Was like every time there's a push, there's a pull.
Yeah.
You want to do this? Great. Well, this over here is going to happen that you didn't expect. Or you want to add this? Well, this is going to pop up. And then it's just a matter of figuring out where are the priorities. So if you're scheduling band and chorus, that's a priority, which by the way is the hardest classes in the school to schedule because they're one of the few that are 4 grades and all year long.
Yeah.
So that combination really makes it a challenge. So if that's your priority, which I think you told me you did build this schedule
we leaned
around
into it, yeah.
But whether you're scheduling APs or you're scheduling, whatever your priorities are, you set those first. And then everything else kind of falls where it is after that. And then so that priorities piece, that was the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is that small schools are really hard. And the reason small schools are really hard is that the vast majority of the courses that he's going to schedule are what we call singletons. Meaning there's one section of it. You know, Spanish 3, one section. In fact, it's probably combined with Spanish 4 in one section.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There might be 2 sections of bio, right? There might be 2 sections of, Algebra 1, but the vast majority, of course, particularly upper level stuff, are singletons. And so you pit things against each other wherever they fall. And in bigger schools, you have multiple of all those things. I remember scheduling a Springfield with 2 AP stats sections. It's like, okay, well, we can make that work for any kid because there's multiples. But when you have singletons, it's harder. And then throw in the shared staff piece. Like if that wasn't hard enough, now you have a bunch of staff that you have to schedule in middle and high. And so this is probably the hardest type of school to build a schedule for. Not only what the Bell schedule is, which is what you're asking about, the block versus 5 periods, all that, but also where do the classes fall within that, the master schedule, if you will, how that plays itself out, and what the ripples of those things are. When one kid wants to go to the Career Center in a bigger school, they'd be like, yeah, well, I guess you can't take that class. Except that in a bigger school, they'd have 3 or 4 sections of it. But we have one, and the kid wants to go to the Career Center. Well, you know what I mean? So life is about choices, which is what you try to do. But because it's one kid and there's only 40 kids in the grade, you want to make it work.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. I just want you guys to understand that. I think IT's been involved this year in the bill through the AMA scheduling system. And but yeah, we've been over a variety of things. And when I was on staff here, when we had an 8-period day when I first got here, and then switched to a block was a 2-year process. I don't know, Lindsay, maybe you were here for that, but the year in the middle was a hybrid with like 3 days of 8-period and 2 days of block. And I mean, anyway, it was crazy, but the transition to that was I remember there was a full staff consensus, meaning every single staff member in the building agreed to make the switch and how to make the switch over a 2-year cycle. And if you knew some of the teachers back then on staff, to get everyone to agree was something. I'm just going to leave it at that. So anyway, so I just wanted to add to that, just because of my experience and background with doing this. This is like incredibly hard work. So
yeah, I mean, and I think, like, just to be clear, like, folks have really worked to figure this out. They're working hard, and it's like to the point of frustration, and it's like, I gotta be careful not to.
What I'm hearing, just to emphasize, what I'm hearing you say is not no, but not yet.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I'm hearing you say.
In the committee's pretty much saying that too. Like they want to. They have some interesting threads. There's really some neat opportunities, but there's that comfort level. Like there are people you can say, hey, you have this opportunity. What'd you like to do? Like, yeah, I'm going to jump in and figure it out. Other people want, like, here's the list, here's the, like, you have that range of folks. Not that one's better than the other, it's just different styles. And so, yeah, even we have a couple of ideas of how to, like, try to advance the thinking with the time that we have left this year, so that we can have a rich discussion next year as we do our portrait of a graduate, consider our course offerings and whatnot.
So I'm glad to hear that. That was sort of my last part of it, was just that I know that the committee has obviously put a ton of effort into it, and I super appreciate all of the work and the thought that has gone into it. I understand it's a super complicated process. I hope that the committee will have some sort of action plan or next steps, or, you know, how they're going to be moving forward, both for the end of this year and right away next year, so that we're not, you know, the school year starts and it's really, you know, where it's all new and exciting and we're busy because it's the beginning of the year, and the next thing you know, it's like December or January, and that happens, right? That's real.
And
so
that's
I would just,
where you start the process of kids. The course of studies comes out then, and kids are picking
Right.
classes in the winter, and
Of course.
you start the scheduling. Really, you should be doing it in March.
Yeah,
building it. So it's
And
like
so
we started in
appreciate that.
October. I mean, we
Right.
did.
Yeah.
It's like we just, I shouldn't say we, because they did it. And to be really transparent, I didn't say we were doing a consensus vote. I'm like, I want to see if we can do this. And they didn't balk. They just went. I really appreciate the staff for the support they gave me in it. They're like, all right, you say to do it, we're going to try to do it. I mean, I love them for that, but it took months to even get one that was like, oh, maybe. And then, like, within 2 weeks, like, what if we did this? And like, they really like tinkering with it.
and so just at this point, just for moving forward,
Yes.
like, I appreciate all that's gone into it. I hope that we continue to move forward with as much enthusiasm as it started with, so that really all of those goals of, you know, continuity of learning and, you know, we sort of solved one of 4 things, kind of, right? We got like one that's like really on point and 3 that we're working towards.
I don't know. You're not gonna get all 4. I didn't know that. You know, I mean, like,
that's the prioritization piece.
Right.
Yeah, it's like you're just not. I know that at this point, I didn't know when I gave it to him.
Sure.
But I would also say I think the enthusiasm of the committee is probably higher now than what it was when we started, because they're thinking it through and they're seeing possibilities, and even to what Bob had talked about, like teams for the middle school. I'm not sure that our PBL work isn't going to push the high school staff into wanting teams so that they can organize around expeditions and intensives instead of impacting one another like they're going to do it as groups. Like that may be the future where, and then you're going to have a schedule that's really going to get different. I guess that's the best. I'd just leave it at that. But it's exciting. It's exciting if people can kind of have dreams and engage around that and grow. So
I look forward to hearing how this
the dreams
continues.
Well, the dreams are.
How it
You don't want to hear
continues.
about Dana's dreams, some of them are scary.
Please, no.
I got a question for Dana.
Yeah.
I know the vaping issue is a big thing. One of the negative effects of it is the removal of the bathroom doors and the modesty and privacy given to the students who wish to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
There are a number of students who hold their physical things until they get home because of the modesty. And here you're trying to promote a safe and healthy school, but you're not really with that. I mean, is the vapor detectors too much? Is it a big endeavor? I mean, I know.
Yeah, a couple things there. First of all, I put the doors on last fall, and within a week, the students had organized to take them off. That was unexpected, but I'm gonna listen to what, like, I don't know.
Mike must have loved that.
It does, well, but again, he didn't, you know, it's like you kind of listen to what students are saying and see what and why, but all right, whatever. So the doors came off. I think student council was talking about that a little bit. Well, we had speeches today, so it came up a little bit in speeches like, if you're ready for doors on, then let's put them on, right? The thing is with the vape detectors is, we had talked about switching to single user restrooms, right? But then you're talking about door and lock updates, plumbing update. Like, I thought maybe it would be doable. I think the cost of that is much beyond what we have for. That being said, there are restrooms in the building that have doors that are single user that students have access to. So there's opportunities for students to find comfortable places to use the restroom.
Are they known about?
I believe, I mean, students use them, so I would assume.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hearing from parents.
Yeah.
And from students that they do not find it the privacy that they would wish.
Yeah. I think one thing that I heard was like the sound, the students actually bought a white noise machine. Because what they were doing was they were turning the water on. So what are you doing with the water?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're not. So the high school students were they were managing it themselves. They had a sound machine. They just turn it on and leave it on, and then unplug it. They like
should be bought for the middle school.
They solved it. Yeah, I mean, could be.
Yeah, because
I think it's interesting that the two different groups and the different opinions, but I'm remembering the group of students who wanted them off typically are ones that like, I don't want to be in the bathroom when there's stuff going on.
Yeah.
And people think it's me.
Totally get it.
So they're looking. So there is like that two sides. You got to kind of figure out how to do it. But
yeah. But then with
porta potties outside.
In the winter, it might be nice and warm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bathroom times would definitely be reduced then.
So yeah. But we could look into getting a noise, like a white noise machine for the. It's interesting because like maybe the high schoolers are just getting comfortable enough. You know, can we have it? And they're like, yeah, of course, you got to talk to us. Where the middle school's like, we're not going to say anything, but it's okay.
Yeah, that might be more of a thing.
Yeah.
They're more into their adult shoes when they get into high school.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. Well, thank you for addressing it.
Peter.
I don't mean to answer a little bit for him, but I do think that any students that might be having some sort of issue should really talk to the school nurse. It is very much that falls into her realm, and I do think that accommodations can be found. So I would very much encourage talking to the school nurse about it.
Bathroom.
Great. All right, thank you, Dana.
Yep.
Bob?
Can I, just one more thing, I swear to God, it doesn't require a conversation, it just, for next time, I had said at our last meeting when we went over the CIP plans that I would love for some way to address that, whether it's through the principal reports or otherwise, with sort of like very specific, like measurable outcomes or whatnot. And there was a little bit of that came up, but I would just like to throw that out there that I'm still very interested in how, like, it's lovely to hear that Q8 happened and I'm super psyched about that, but it would also be lovely to hear that, like, every, you know, our test scores, like, other than we took our tests, like, hey, every single student met this goal, or we got, you know, 80% of the way to what goal we had set, or whatever it is.
We're working on a template that we'll
Cool.
share out that will have some of that.
Thanks.
Can I ask a question? Like, tonight when I talk about high quality staffing, I want to reveal it, but it wasn't time yet. The professional development for next year will focus on blah, blah, blah. All right, that's actually part of our SIP. Do you want me to put that down under, like, anything that relates to the SIP and what's guidance? Do you want me to put it under there, or do you want me to leave it up top in the, because it's some of it's
We're
connected.
going to redesign the template.
All right.
Cool. I trust you. I love to put things out there in a way that's like showing measurable progress to the world. That we are indeed trying to be better.
Some of us love data.
There you go.
Thank you.
On a spreadsheet, gave it to him. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
I love data.
Bob?
Yeah, I'll keep mine especially brief. So you got my cabinet report, beginning of the month. Been following very closely through meeting with legislators and through the VSA around what's happening on Montpelier, as Emily briefed us a little bit on there, and there's a lot of things happening, and some of it has to do with funding mechanisms and formulas and different foundation formulas and weighting and all that kind of stuff. And I will just say that the House Ed version of that provided more resources for us than the Senate Ed or the Senate Finance version, to the point where I would be extremely nervous about the Senate version, the impact to us. There's been modeling, I don't want to throw out wild numbers, but they ain't good. How about that? For us, and actually for any of our districts in WCSU, with the exception of Stratton, they're wildly bad. So again, it's an early modeling, and it's like, you know, based on previous fiscal years, not this, whatever. There's a lot that could change, but I would say that some of the changes, if you're talking about funding formula changes without governance changes or other cost containment things, I think it could be problematic. And Emily and I talked about this. She's obviously was part of the House version, so. At any rate, yeah, so that's where we're at, but one of the things I saw recently had talked about sparsity weights, and if they did it one way, none of the schools in IRSU would fit it, which is amazing to me. If they did it another way, all of them would. So, yeah, anyway, so those just makes me nervous about how we're thinking about that, and what the future will hold is quite troubling right now. So, just to lead with that, and again, as Emily said, they may lead. I mean, they're going to either have something, or they're not going to have something. Or they have something and the governor doesn't sign it, or what have you. So, there's a lot of flux, as she mentioned, a lot of things happening. But I'm trying to keep up to date with all that and send updates. And the VSBA stuff has been pretty up to date as well, with sending out updates as well. So,
yeah,
check that out. Yeah, I think that might be it for me at this point. So.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah. All right, so it is 8:49. I'm gonna reach out to Drew on this one. So we have a few things. Policy, I don't know if we absolutely need to address this tonight.
So if you want this adopted and be in effect by July 1,
we need to. Okay.
You would need to do, without a special meeting at some point.
Warn it now.
You need to warn now and adopt it in June 1. All you're doing now is just a first reading. You're not committing to it. You're just saying, yep, we did a first reading of it.
Yep.
Policy committee has reviewed it. I met with them. This is what they've put forward with me.
Okay, so that's a
It's all
fairly-
VSBA pro forma language anyways. They're all legally required. So that
Yeah.
might make it a quick decision just to do a reading and move on, yeah.
Okay, so that's an easy one.
Yep.
The other two, Drew, I don't know if you want to speak to that. I mean, obviously we can run through this, but given that the time of night.
And you still have some executive sessions, is what you're saying.
And executive session after that, yeah, so 2 executive sessions.
We'll hold them over for the meeting.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Well, let's do the policy then. So these are all just being warned at this point, correct?
Yep.
So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to warn the policies of D8, selection of library materials, C8, pupil privacy rights, and B3, alcohol and drug-free workplace.
Second it.
Lindsay seconds.
Just to give you a heads up, the D8 is the only new one. The other two are updates to your existing ones, minor language changes. But the library ones is a new required one to take effect July 1.
Okay, great. Any discussion?
Just if you want, policy committee, we looked at them, we read them over. There was only one that we really talked about for a moment, but we think that that it all makes sense. We see there's no real, these are pretty easygoing policies. There's nothing too huge in there as of super controversial or anything, at least from the policy committee perspective.
Thank you for reviewing them.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Did I,
it. It's very helpful.
that true enough, Lindsay?
Yep.
Cool.
Worded it perfectly, and I'm not even on that.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. First warnings. I mean, sorry,
Yeah.
it is getting late, you know. Great, okay, I think that wraps it up and we will hold over the next two. And I will, yeah, so we have 2 executive sessions. We'll do the first one. I move to enter an executive session to discuss a student matter under 1 VSA, section 313A7.
I'll second that.
Peter? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, okay. We will go into executive session. Okay, we have come out of executive session. Peter, did you have something?
I would like to make a motion to, as according to our records that we have established here in our papers in front of us, I would like to approve student tuition request for student C and deny the tuition requests for students A, B, and D.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dana. Any discussion?
Yes, I kind of on the whole matter of the tuition requests. I think that we really need to have a conversation going forward about what our plan is for these tuition requests in future years. And I might encourage the administration to make sure that these families are aware of that and that maybe they try to get those tuition requests in as early as possible so that there is time for possible follow-up on them. I would just
And appropriate budgeting probably too.
and appropriate, but yes, I think that it would be really beneficial to get those tuition requests in as early as possible for 2 school years from now.
Thank you, Peter.
Yep.
Anybody else? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries unanimously. Okay.
Executive session number
We
2.
will now be going into another executive session, but let me start with the motion. I move to make a specific finding that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or a person involved at a substantial disadvantage. I move to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing negotiations under 1 VSA section 313A1A. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Dana. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously, and we will enter. Okay, we are back out of executive session, and there is no action required. So I'll ask for that final motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? Crystal second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great.
Very
See you all on
enthusiastic.
June 9th.